how you know I'm doing a decoupage project. My floor looks like this. This box started out live as a plain brown cardboard box. And as you can see, it is now no longer a plain brown cardboard box. I transformed this using a technique called decoupage and a whole bunch of pieces of scrap paper. And today, I'm going to show you how I did it. Now, a little bit about what you'll need for this project. You'll need a brush. It can be a regular brush or a sponge brush. Some water to dip the brush in. A whole bunch of scrap pieces of paper, the thinner the better. And either some white school glue, just like Elmer's glue or the generic version of that, and some Mod Podge. Now, a little bit about these. There's a matte Mod Podge, and the glue will also dry matte. There's also a luster Mod Podge. Let me show you the difference between them. Okay. This surface, you can see, is not shiny. I don't know if you can tell that there's a little bit of glitter, though. Finished this surface with just glue. Finished this surface with the matte Mod Podge. It's basically the same, but not as glittery. Finished this surface with the luster Mod Podge. So you can see it's a little bit shiny. That's the main textural difference. There's also a price difference. These two are both almost as expensive as this giant jug. So white glue is going to be way cheaper. What I'm going to do today is start with this, then use these more expensive, the more expensive Mod Podge as a finishing. That's what I would recommend. Raw material for decoupage is everywhere. And heck, people will send it to you for free. You open the seed catalog, which has these wonderfully light pages. There's beautiful pictures of all sorts of vegetables and plants, berries. And this advertisement I have here, when you see this, look at patches of color. Notice pictures of sandwiches here, words or letters, if you wanted to go that way, fruit. And again, patches of color that you can cut out and use in creative ways. Green, blue. Don't just look for whole things. Also look for what you can make with patterns or patches of color. There's so much that you can do with this. This is the box that I am going to decoupage today. I'll probably just do the outside and see how that looks. I can always do the inside later if I want to. I'm planning to do the lid and the bottom. I'm going to start this lid off with a big piece, and then I've got a whole bunch of other smaller green pieces that I'll cover with it. Now, I personally like to paint the surface that I'm working with first. I lay the image on, and you paint over it. You're going to be doing a lot of coats on this. Or if it looks white right now, it will dry clear. And the goal is to get everything wet and kind of lacquered down. Some papers will wrinkle or will behave differently. And so I suggest you do, if you're really picky about how it's going to turn out, do some experiments first. I'm pretty laissez-faire about the whole thing. I love the little imperfections and weird bits that might occur just kind of by chance. So, but if that stresses you out, try it out first. I'm not a huge fan of wrinkles when they show up, so I will squish them down. The thinner the paper that you use, the less likely you are to get this kind of behavior from the paper. So what I'm doing here is kind of trying to make sure everything is pressed down. It will behave better if it is wet. That'll help it to hold down. If it doesn't work right away, and wait until it gets kind of partway dried and a little stiff, and then it'll be a little more cooperative. One thing about decoupage is you can cover as much or as little as you feel like. You are one in control. You don't have to go with one color or anything if you don't want to. You don't even have to use pictures. This is just stuff. It's just pictures and shapes that I cut out of an ad. One of those ad magazines that you get trying to get you to buy food and stuff you probably don't need. I find it very satisfying to be able to turn what is basically my junk mail into something unique and cool. By the way, expect to get messy with these particular projects. You're basically playing with glue. And you'll have a lot more fun if you just decide in advance that it's okay that you get messy. That's the nice thing about these particular white glue concoctions is that they are very, very washable. And I don't really have a plan here beyond put green paper on. As plans go, it's not, it has the benefit of simplicity. I like to completely cover up the old box. You can let it show through if you want to, but this is my particular aesthetic. I like to have a completely new surface when I'm done. By the way, be careful when you set this on stuff, because as I mentioned, it is just watered down glue, so it absolutely will stick to other surfaces. Sometimes just nothing better than a finger to smooth this whole mess down. Another method that you can use, depending on your tolerance for messiness, you can actually dip the paper into your medium, and then just kind of smooth it onto your surface. It's very messy, it is true, but that sucker is now attached very thoroughly. This one doesn't want to stay attached. That's why I keep smoothing it down. Eventually, it will surrender. Anything starts to peel up, just smush it back down. If something is too long, if your paper is a little bit stiff, like a few pieces of this magazine type stuff are, then dipping it into the glue is a great way to get it to behave. And if you have extra, just sop it up with some other paper. It's really a very forgiving art. Well, at least the way I do it. I'm sure that there are
people who are way more professional and will tell me I'm wrong in the comments. That's cool. I'm just doing this because it's fun. I'm not trying to make high art by any means. I'm just making something fun and a little whimsical and interesting, I hope. And eventually I might put a gift in it. By the way, it is perfectly permissible to set your project down and walk away from it for a little while and then come back to it. If you get to a point where things are just not cooperating and you're frustrated or whatever else, just put it down. Walk away. Let it think about its future for a little bit and then come back when things have dried a little bit more and see if they're not cooperating at that point. I'm not going to be too precious about covering up all the edges, just a little bit more showing on that one than I really wanted to. Okay. Now we've got a green lid. Set this over on the over side to dry. Let's start on the bottom. Kind of purple for this. So that's where we'll go. Got this nice big purple banana thing. I have that for the bottom. By the way, do not need to have one big piece. You don't have to have a bunch of small pieces. You just do whatever you feel and whatever you have materials for. Got a little bit of the green left, so I'll put that on the side to provide some continuity. Because why not? Actually, yeah, that'll do. Sometimes you can easily pick things up. Sometimes you can't. This is one of those times where I cannot. And we are wrinkling again, which I don't mind. I'll just squish all the glue out and let that make it interesting. That edge smooth down nicely. And, oh yeah, that's going to be fun. Take this dude all the way around and fold him over a bit. Expect to have to go and wash your hands several times through this process. That's just how it works. As I said, it's messy and there's a lot of glue. Okay, I'm probably going to have to take a break here because, as you might have seen, one of the sides is trying to stick to my surface, which is a hazard when you are painting with glue, basically. So I'll probably set this aside to dry for a bit. Give everything else a nice coat as you use the glue to seal, to stick everything down and to seal it. Yeah, at a certain point, you just got to let it dry because especially the bigger pieces get a little bit hard to handle. It can also be handy to have a wet cloth to wipe your hands off with, or to just, have to clean up little messes. All right, here's how the lid is looking so far. And here is the bottom. still has a little bit more work to do here. Not much. But I've decided I'm going to add a little bit of decoration on the inside of each. I'll show you how that looks once it's done. All right, like the white glue, it's quite viscous. I like to add a little bit of water, make it flow a little better. Give it a good stir. In this case, I'm going to start the inside. So everywhere you paint, every corner that it touches, is going to kind of get sealed nicely. And this is true for the glue and the matte and the luster, but it will be prettier and shinier with the luster. But everywhere that you paint will get nicely sealed. And you definitely want that, because that will protect your box for the long term. In this case, I'm going to take my finger, make sure all of my paper is kind of sealed down here, because I don't want any bits poking up. I'll get the top edge here, because nothing wrong with getting the edges a bit more reinforced, but definitely don't want to get any of the bottom, because I want to set it down to dry. Okay, special attention to the corners and the edges. And if you can paint in the solution on in a way that is kind of along the same grain or direction as paper or whatever you're using, all the better. All right. Now I'm going to just let these guys dry for a bit. Edges are still wet, but the center is dry. So I'm going to paint the outside edges of my boxes. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set the boxes on other surfaces when it's time to dry them. I want everything painted with a fairly even coat of this solution. I'm going to put this over the top of this container so that it can dry without touching the ground, without touching anything else. Now, the lid, which I will put on top of this container, to keep the bottom from touching anything. There we go. I'm getting everything. Main issue here is you want to get every square inch covered and push down, because everything you cover with your solution is going to get sealed and protected. That's what you want to do with your project. Make sure that everything is sealed and protected for posterity, or, until the end of whenever you give it to someone else, or allow it to do whatever it wants to do. By the way, another thing to consider is you put a second layer on, or even a third, all you're doing is giving it more protection making it more sturdy. All right. Now, put it on. I let it dry.
And this is done. Got this box that used to be just a regular cardboard box with a lid. And now it is a very colorful and unique box that I can use to put gifts in or something. It's also going to be a lot more durable, perfectly waterproof. It's hard to do with one hand. But yeah, it's just a fun little project. You can see this is one, it's got a little bit of a shine to it because I used the glossy Mod Podge to finish it. This is what it looks like with the matte. So a little bit of shine, but far less. That's it for this episode of Make, Mend, Grow with Diana. I hope you enjoyed watching me decoupage some boxes. Leave a note in the comments if you decoupage or if you want to see me do more like this. If you enjoyed this content, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. It really helps the channel. I'll see you next time on Make, Mend, Grow with Diana. Bye now.